defender. We're talking about the forgotten victims. And we said, Redemptor, let's focus on these over 400 bodies that have been exhumed in Shakahola.
Yes.
And not much has been pieced together about this. But you said you will die on this hill. You will go and speak to the people who have gone to Shakahola and said, my person is missing and I suspect that they are here. Given us an example of this 70-year-old woman. Give us another example of a family that is missing or somebody that is looking for their loved one. And what's the story? Let's not forget then the person who's missing.
Okay. So because of talking to one person, they end up knowing that there's someone called Redemptor who seems to care about our stories. So you get to know another one, then the other one. And so I discovered there are two kinds of families here. There's one that is vocal. There's the one that is living with the stigma. And so I want to compare even those two families. So there's this one family man who is considered the whistleblower. And his story is out there and he's giving interviews. He will not stop talking about it to any media that shows up in Kilifi that wants to know the story. So he becomes the poster of this massacre. And he's in every media until he's told, hey, tone down. And his case
Told by who?
The authorities.
Okay.
Tone down. And so he's unrelenting. He goes in front of the Senate. He says, my grandchildren are missing. I reported. I got an order to have an exhumation. That's how the story broke. And he keeps going until out of the 34 bodies that were matched, 5 belong to his family members. And again, it's the biggest covered story. And the world has seen that bodies have been matched. And the day that the burial is happening, media is from all over the world are there because they've been following this one story. And so that man gets a semblance of closure. And so my 70-year-old woman, on the other hand, showed up in Malindi once, never came back, never got a single call. And now it gets to a point where I don't want to call these family members. Because every time they see my call, they'll think I have some news. And while I was doing this, I decided to walk with one young man who was missing his mother, his brother, 6 family members again. And I got in a lot of trouble because every media person that comes to that town is known. But there's this woman that nobody knows about who ends up attending a burial. And I get a summon. Who are you? I'm a storyteller.
Who summoned you?
The department that investigates homicide. And actually they asked me if I'll ever tell this story. And I told them, yes, I'll sing like a canary when I get the opportunity to. And it was shocking that you are questioned for caring about the impact of these 2 families. And so the assumption is because a lot of the storytellers, the media, will come and tell the story. I am skilled. It's a talent for me to write stories. So I don't have those rules that journalists have. To tell the story, don't live in the story. So I kind of end up living in the stories because I'm attending burials and I'm the contact person of this person. So when I'm told, who are you? I actually say I'm a minister without portfolio. Actually, now the spiritual side of I am doing psychosocial, spiritual support to these families. Why? Why would you do that? Who has sent you? Who is paying you? Why do you want? And so that's why I'm speaking up now about forgotten victims, because the reason why.
Sorry, I didn't get that. So the police called you because you were attending burials?
Yes, I attended one burial that now came to their radar.
Whose burial?
A victim of Shakahola.
One of the 34?
One of the 34.
One of the 34 matched bodies?
Yes.
Why did you stand out?
On that particular day, I told you now comparing the families, is this one is all over media and this one is not on the media. And so when I come, I say I'm doing victims advocacy. I actually report on the desk and I tell the family member, do not say I'm your relative. Say I'm here to give you support as you do this because you're by yourself. A 30-year-old man He's a very young man. And he's tasked with this responsibility.
So
you have asked me why I stood
whose
out.
body
is
was he
because
picking?
His mother's. And he had been calling me once we got connected. He had been calling me for that 1 year. And it got to a point he said, I don't even want to know about the others, just want my mother. So very respectful young man calls me and says, Madam, I got the report they found my mother among the matched bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, is anyone working with you on this one? He says, it's just me. We can't even afford to come to Malindi because we are all the way in Hola. So I say, I'll be here. And so the day I'm told there's a vehicle that is going to take him to Hola, I just think, well, maybe a good Samaritan gave him the vehicle. So I say, I'll escort you. I'll bury this woman because I've gotten to know her story. I know her story very well. And she was a lay pastor and all those, and she has this number of children. So let me get a ride. Beknownst to me that vehicle belongs to the government. And I kind of find out at the last minute, but
Did he know?
Yes. No, he told me it's a private arrangement.
Okay.
So we are struggling to buy a coffin, Eric. The money is not even enough. So it's just me, this young man, and a relative, an older man. Because I said, do not come to Malindi alone. Just come with somebody. This is not easy. And the day before, we are buying a coffin, and the money is not enough. And so I'm like, I always tell the families I support that I don't give monetary support. I'm a lone ranger. I walk telling stories of life-changing events, and I don't give money. So what do? The person selling us a coffin says, oh, there is a community here, a welfare community for people from that part of the town. Maybe I can give you the number. And I say, explain. I say, well, this family needs support. Well wishers, can you chip in? And I give them the phone and they talk their language. So the next day when now the money is still not enough, the coffin is supposed to be delivered. I am aware now you asked me why did I stand out?
Yes.
So they're speaking their language, I'm not speaking their language, and I'm making a call, say, did you find can you top up what we have? Because we need this to be delivered. So that's when I get notice. But at the reporting desk, I actually told the officer I do victim advocacy. I'm here to investigate the impact of this and how someone just goes through such a life-changing event.
The thing I've always found puzzling about this Shakahola story is how could so many people depart from a life they lived, make this journey, which was to mark the end of their lives, in such large numbers?
Yeah.
How were they contacted? How did they get to hear of this place? What is it? Is the story the same? Did they all hear the same message? Were they all pursuing the same? There are those who say they had been informed there was cheap land that could be bought. There are others who are going on a pilgrimage. What is it?
For any crime, if you ever report crime, the people look at the criminal and others choose to look at victimology. I decided I was going to focus on victimology.
So tell us the story of this mother of a 30-year-old man from Hola.
Yes.
Because you say you had studied her, you knew her story. Okay. So what's her story? Where did she come from? How did she end up in Shakahola?
She went, she has found a new church. She's not from that church originally.
Okay.
She's introduced by her children. And she likes the teachings. But more so...
Where did she live? She lived in Hola.
Yes, the victimology, the focus of the victimology is also 2020, COVID, conspiracy theories, distrust for government, huduma number. So you already have a clique that is there because of conspiracy theories. They don't believe they should get into the system of the mark of the beast. So already that's a target audience.
So that's why this woman moved from her church to a new church?
There was something that message attracted them.
So there was a doomsday message.
Yes.
And
that
this
are
church was in Hola.
But at a very no, there were branches, yes, all over the country.
So I want you to tell us the story of this woman. I mean,
Yes. You don't want all the other stories.
No, this
I want
woman's
us to
story
focus.
exemplifies.
Because it
the
tells
very
the
thing
story
that-
of the others.
Victimology.
Yes,
The
exactly.
victimology.
Yes.
Redemptor, what we are trying to do is go by what you're saying. Let's not forget the victims. Let's not just call victims numbers
Yes.
or say woman.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So let's tell this. Who is this woman
Yes.
whose story you say you studied so well?
Yes.
She lived in Hola.
Yes.
She belonged to a certain church.
She was a lay.
She was a lay
A lay minister.
in her original church.
Yes.
So how does she move from that church to this other ministry? What happens? How does the message get to her?
There's a contact. There's a church plant in our community of that church in Malindi. So that's how she ends up now joining and told, come, Kanisa Jangwani message is preached. And so they go, and it's all nice at the beginning. It's all nice at the beginning. And Eric, you have to understand, like I've said, because of prejudice, I wanted to explain more of why they are forgotten than this particular story because of subjudice. Some of these people are either maybe could be witnesses, although in this particular case, I don't think anyone.
There's no case against this woman.
Yes, so she goes there because her children have convinced, her son has convinced her that this is the way to go. We will be farming. We will have a good life. And then once you're there, the doomsday now comes in while you're inside there. So in a nutshell, I have shared a document with you that is 1 page from the Senate report and 35 pages from the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. Those two reports then explain that these people are all there for different reasons. Some were there willingly, some were there to buy land, some believed in that doomsday, some were instead. So ni mtego that got waliokuwemo na wasiokuwemo.
You said that this lady was a lay preacher.
Yes.
Now, you also said that the tentacles of this particular organization was all over.
Yes.
So, from the story you summed up, how did she get to hear of this place and this person?
Her son is already inside.
And the same son
Yes.
that you were helping bury the mother?
No, another son. This young man is looking for 6 family members. That's her mother, her brother, the wife, and 3 children.
Who'd gone there before the other?
The son.
Okay. So this young man's brother had gone there.
Yes.
And he's also one of the reasons why now the mother also joined.
Yes.
But the message that the mother was given,
Yes.
according to this man that you talked to, is that you come here, there is plenty of land.
Yes.
And it's a community of the faithful.
Yes. We are linking ourselves from these Babylonians.
System.
It's a system. We will never get their job. We will not be in their mark of the beast thing. So that attracted a group. There's a group I've told you about, Kadonzweni, that came purely to buy land. They had not joined the faith. So for me, studying the victimology helps me get the story, because you see, the forest has been conned off. But out of those forests, people peñaed out of that forest. And the story is in the community. And so that's my focus. But why I came here for forgotten victims is the spiral is once those bodies are not given back to the community, then no media person will find these people. They get into rabbit holes. So it will be someone who is determined in all the victims' advocacy cases of violations in this country. It's a few lone even journalists who decide I'm sticking with this story from beginning up to the end.
How many of such stories do you have?
The one I'm comfortable to talk about is 2017, Stephanie Mora, because that one I documented from the day the other party, ODM, went to the site, said we will make sure you get compensation, to now just listening to what's going on. There's an inquiry, IPO has taken over, and then you end up going to court 40 times. 40 times, just know if that child was shot by a police or not. And after 40 visits, it's declared, yes, the police shot this girl, but because of the blue code of silence, the police officers are not willing to out each other. So it's a police, yes, we confirm that bullet came from the police. And then now you have to go and sue the state. And so from 2017 to now, then you get to see why victims get forgotten. It's lost
I'm not
in...
saying, Redemptor, I'm sorry, you're not telling the story. You want to tell the story, but you're not telling the story, right? And even people are wondering, so what's the story?
The story is victims.
You don't want us to forget the victims.
Yes.
So tell their story.
So the story
if you have documented the story.
Yes, so this story is that you work with the family and say, I'll make sure your child is not forgotten. So let's go through the steps of making sure this story stays alive. So what happens is, once the media comes, a big story, I was telling you the spiral of how these victims get forgotten. When the story breaks, the story breaks,
we get that.
The media
and then there are the Lone Rangers like Redemptor who continue with the story. Because media came, media picked the highlights, and media left because the media went to the next story. But Redemptor stayed. Now Redemptor is here in media. She stayed. Let her tell the story then.
Let me give it a twist. Once upon a time, there was a lady called Grace. She was a lay pastor in a small village in Hola. Because her son was a believer, her son convinced her to join the faith that he belonged to. The message appealed to her. This is a message that appealed to very many people across the country, and this was because this particular church had branches or tentacles right across. Before she joined this church, she was this sort of person. She had this number of children. She had this number of relatives. And the aspiration of even this son, according to the stories you've been told by the other brother, was this. A picture is painted of the family before the matriarch moves over. Then she disappears, and the son wants to find out. It's family members. Now, the story of this lady leaving Hola is represented by the many bodies of people who have been identified and who haven't been identified. Now, the horror behind the story, just the sheer numbers. But worse still, the apathy that now we feel and we have, or is it resignation? Or is it that it's too much to understand or too much to bear? So here we are. And just when you begin to get a hang of it, some other tragedy occurs. But this falls into a pattern because we've had a long history of such tragedies. Either bodies were being found in rivers. Now we found some in a quarry. Some were shot during protests.
Now you're getting it.
No, I'm telling you the story. I am also a storyteller. The two of us are storytellers. You see,
that's how we'd like the story.
Yes.
All right? So that you can get to feel and move with the journey of this woman coming from Hola and the family, this young man. He's alone. He's alone. He's come back from Hola to come and pick the body of his mother. But he's still waiting to be told about his brother, his sister-in-law, and his nephews and nieces, right? And so we walk through all these six people, through the eyes, the ears, the feelings, the emotions of this 30-year-old young man, right? So we don't forget that it's not just, he has not just lost somebody, he has lost a mother, he has lost a brother, and this is who they were. You don't have to give us the names, but this is who they are. So we get to know that when you hear 400 bodies have been exhumed and we are moving into phase 4, phase 5 of exhumation process, and then Johansen Odor flies into Kilifi, he conducts postmortems, he does a report, he comes back, he goes to the next area. The person who's left to tell that story is Redemptor. And the reason why we invited you here is so that you can then amplify that story. That it's not 400 is not a number.
There are people.
400.
They are individuals, one by one, with family members, with the story, with the history, with hopes, with aspirations. They make up this number of 400.
250 families, that's a big village.
It impacts society in a big way because Kenyan families, 200 people could be 10,000 people who are connected to this story.
Even more. Even more. If you look at our numbers in terms of our population, our numbers in terms of how we are interconnected through relatives, the number could be much, much, much larger. But forgotten, really, is it that we forget? Or is it that we'd rather not remember it's not, the two are not the same thing.
Yes, we'd rather sweep it under the carpets and say we did what we could, we gave the results. We have we have documentaries coming out of this saying, breaking down, say 4 out of 4, 53, this, and that's why it gave you the comparison of that man who was unrelenting in amplifying his story, ended up being handed the bodies were matched.
Yeah.
So that tells you the forgottenness. If you,
so he can stop talking.
I guess.
And because he got his kin, he's going to bury them. He's no longer in the news.
Yes.
So he has moved out of the news cycle. The other 249 families are somewhere.
Yes, asking for closure.
They're waiting for their call to come and tell them, we identified your body.
Yes.
DNA, if they've already given samples, and if indeed their family members are missing, then the government has two things to do. Either match the DNA. DNA is a science that is readily available. Match the DNA of these 400 bodies with the victims that you have. And if those people are not there, and you've identified, you've even sent police to the villages and found out that actually, yes, this person was reported as missing. And it's true, they are missing. Then produce them. Because that's the job of the police. If the family has come and said, we have a missing relative, it's the job of the police to then investigate. So where is this person? Where did they go to? Did they leave the country? Are they in the country? Are they in another part of the country? Did they change their identity? Were they running away from something? There has to be something. But the people need answers.
Yes.
And those answers are the ones that are not forthcoming.
Yes. And because of the stigma of such a story, the reporting then fizzles out. Because they know the results will be.
But does it fizzle out? The family members who are alive and have lost dear ones, do they really ever forget? It's those of us who consider it news. You see, when someone dies, for the people who are bereaved, it is not news.
It is very personal.
Yes, it is. And it's painfully personal.
Tragic.
It's tragedy.
And it stays for years.
And when it's such a large number, it's a tragedy for the nation.
Yes. Exactly. And that's why I'm saying, for me, the forgotten victims then amplify the trauma that Kenyans face. So that if you have pockets of people in Kisumu in 2023, you have pockets of people from all over the country in 2023, 400. Then you have quarry. Then you have now bodies in city mortuary that nobody is saying who do they belong to. So it's you end up, these forgotten victims impact all of us directly
as a society.
Yes.
Redemptor, thank you for coming. Redemptor Mwekali is a human rights defender. We're talking about the forgotten victims, brutality in Kenya. 8 a.m. Keep here for the next conversation.
Nivea Pearl and Beauty Deodorant